Welcome to B2B Sales Trends, the podcast dedicated to sales leaders in the B2B space, where we share conversations about innovative and successful sales transformations to keep you up to date on the latest trends. This podcast is brought to you by Global Performance Group.
Welcome yet to another fabulous episode of the B2B Sales Trends podcast, my lovely people. The show that brings you hacks, tips, thought leadership to the topic of B2B selling. My name is Ari Kendlbacher, and today's episode is about how do we move from data to deals? How do we enable sales with precision and not false promises? And our expert for today's session, I'm super pleased about, is Ari Capogeannis. I hope I pronounced that right, Ari.
It's a tough one. Ari Capogeannis.
Thank you. And Ari is the Senior Director of Enterprise Revenue Marketing at NVIDIA. Welcome to B2B Sales Trends podcast, Ari.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here, Harry.
To kick us off with, give us a little bit of an intro about yourself, your role, and what's driving you on.
Yeah, definitely. I lead enterprise revenue marketing here. I created the team at NVIDIA to champion data for all our stakeholders across a traditionally siloed organization from B2C to B2B and developer, but selfishly to curate that data at a holistic level to really gain a holistic view of the state of an account's relationship with us, wherever they may be, and all the cross-pollination within that account. My background coming into NVIDIA was running demand gen and inside sales. And prior to that, a deep love of the application of data, first and foremost into marketing, which often, sort of viewed as discretionary spend due to misunderstanding of what that sales cycle really looks like and all the touch points therein. But championing that not for the standpoint of showing that marketers provide value to the organization, but champion it to enable our sellers to be amazing and leverage data for the success of the organization.
It's interesting. Let's stick with that topic and let's kick it off with that, because driving better go-to-market execution across the different business lines is really key, and quite honestly, something that everybody's struggling with, everybody that we talk to anyway. And you sit right sort of at that intersection of marketing, data, and sales. So in your opinion, what helps to drive real execution across, and the end of the day, you guys are a large, super complex organization, especially when teams work so differently. So what drives that real execution, and what makes a difference?
Yeah, it's interesting. The real driver of success is enabling somebody to be amazing at what they do, where they work, without them having to learn something new, do something different. If I have a seasoned seller, the last thing they're going to hear is, I want you to go into these 3 new platforms we paid for, because there's all this wealth of data at your disposal. They barely go into Salesforce to input data from their conversations, right? We're lucky if we get that. They don't want to know how the soup's made. So on the deep analysis and the tools we have and everything, the success really is, can I take something from that to nudge this individual or the aircraft carrier in the right direction without them even really thinking about it? And that's really the goal. It's as complex, the foundation and tech and the application of AI and the holistic level of data and the what sounds like blah, blah, blah to my end stakeholder. All I want is for wherever they're working, for them to know, oh, I'm going to put this foot forward today on this, and not even think about it.
Interesting. And helping sales teams really prioritize what matters, I guess, and sort of seeing through all the tools, all the different things, the data, and really get them to focus on what they need to be doing, is challenging. And especially in that line, and I was just thinking about a conversation I had yesterday about how much data and stuff sellers have to do and are measured by and are being held accountable to do and execute. What, in your opinion, leads to better decision-making, because customer decision-making, should I say, because that's ultimately what we're after. And ultimately, that's what closes us deals and helps us progress. How do you make these insights more actionable, in your opinion?
Yeah, definitely. I lump it into 2 key groups of sellers, right? I'll have a general account seller who typically might have, say, anywhere upwards in the larger org, 500 accounts in their patch. It's much more reactionary on average in that case. That person wakes up in the morning. They don't want to be told by a marketer or somebody outside their realm on what they should be doing, but you ask, how are you starting your day? You have 500 accounts. Are you just looking at your inbox? For that individual, the success is really in ranking those accounts based on all the soup that we have, and be able to say, out of these 500 accounts, these two, without even explaining it, just reach out to these two and reach out to these individuals within that account. And the automation is going to blanket enable the rest of those people. The focus really is buying groups. Now we can get into that in a moment, but orchestration against buying groups, orchestration against the contacts that matter in our system. Backing up a little bit, a lot of people are still stuck in that quarter century old lead flow mentality of the funnel, that somebody's going to come to your website in enterprise, click a bunch of things. They're going to go through this Dungeons and Dragons scoring that some marketer came up with that said, because you read a white paper, you're worth 50 points. And you're going to MQL, go to that individual because they own one of those 500 accounts. And supposedly that's going to create an opportunity. We know now that there are buying groups in play, starting with Forrester's analysis of on average 50,000 for a deal size. Anything 50,000 and up, you're instantly at 3 people in the mix. As you get to 250,000, 9 to 15 and beyond, including procurement, which people don't think about, they could kill the deal at some point in time. So at that point, when we want to enable our sellers, it's no longer this old school funnel view. It's, how do I tell them, one, what account that matters out of the 500, and what do they do? They'll say, who do I reach out to? And typically somebody, well, here's everybody in the account. Or they only have in their view the contacts, because most of us are operating on antiquated systems architectures that were built 20 to 25 years ago that have disparate views. The leads are housed over here. When they do certain things, they convert and they become contacts over here. And that's what the sellers see. For orchestrating against a buying group, I want a profile map of, say, my executive, my team lead, my infrastructure, procurement, and practitioner. And out of that population, who are the most engaged individuals that this seller should be aware of, see, and execute against? Our systems architecture isn't set up that way. Everything I just said is way too complex for the seller. What I want is for them to wake up, be told, Widget Co. is surging, reach out to this individual right now.
Right.
And gain their trust to do so they don't come back and say, I already have a contact at Widget Co., this 300,000 person company that somehow this contact knows everything going on in that organization. That's one example for the general account. When we talk about named account managers, a one-to-one relationship or one-to-few, those individuals are very set in their ways. They're the ones that especially will say, well, I already know Joe at this 300,000 person organization. Joe would tell me if they needed something. That's great, but we want to enable them with information in pocket so that they can make the right decision. Usually that decision is going to happen if they have the right data at their fingertips and aren't being told by somebody to do something. I want them to make the decision. I don't want to take credit for it. I don't care about credit. I just want somehow them to listen to this data that traditionally would come from marketing that they wouldn't listen to. The focus there for us really now is taking AI modeling and the like and producing intelligence briefs. When something happens with that account of note, I want them to be able to see everything going on. I don't want to bombard them. I don't want to send them notifications throughout the day, every day. It gets lost in the noise, but I want them to know that this is everything Joe might not be seeing. Reach out to Joe, ask Joe about this potential deal.
Yep. Yeah. And Sprinkle AI, obviously bring that into the mix here, is everywhere, right? And it's throughout all the different sales process and data is driven by and so forth. I think not everything that's out there with, through AI is shifting the needle or it moves the needle. Where have you seen AI actually improve go-to-market efforts, and where do you think it falls short?
Yeah, it's interesting. AI will make you exponentially better when applied towards something you have domain experience in. For my seller, it doesn't matter where I put a chat prompt. I can put a chat prompt on the CRM that they're operating out of, the BI tool they have access to. But if they already don't use those tools, chances are they're not going to use the prompt. So for me, the success really is the application of AI to data at a holistic level in the back end, where I'm not even telling them we're using AI. They don't care. They don't want to learn the word propensity. They want to learn any of that. All I want is the output to go into their realm, their safe space, what they're comfortable with and currently use, and just have everything order the way they need to have it ordered, and maybe some deeper detail there that matters to them.
Right. In our business, I don't know if you mentioned we're an AI-driven sales enablement play, and we've brought AI throughout all of our processes, and the content's always been great. But the scalability AI gives us when people practice skills and get instant coaching and all that stuff, that's pretty cool stuff. Stuff. And it does help.
Muscle memory. Yeah. It's a muscle memory that needs training. Yeah.
No, I fully agree. And AI gives us the ability to train it every day, not the traditional, okay, we have once a year workshop. But now I can train it literally every day, like an athlete. They train every day and have a game on Saturday, right? Versus, so that's really cool. You know, I do strongly believe though that soft skill, if you want, and you mentioned procurement and the fact that there's 9 to 12 stakeholders now in 200K plus deals and so forth. You know, there are certain stakeholders that people are more comfortable and more drawn to in terms of a persona than others, right? Some people might want to talk more to, the technical person versus the financial buyer. So how do you deal with your people having preference in who they engage with? Because with 9 to 15 people on your sales process, you need to be pretty damn good to engage with all of them at the same level. Yeah. So how do you deal with that?
The engagement's going to be different, right? So for the procurement and say the InfoSec individual that you're going to run into at some point in time, you want them at least aware of the initiative that's happening. You want them aware and trusting and seeing the value in what the offering is. So that's going to revolve around that omni-channel experience push and go to market. It's not necessarily the seller talking to those individuals early on. It's having them as part of your omni-channel play content wise.
Right.
When we look at that buying group, if we sanitize it down to 4 roles, again, let's say executive, team lead, infrastructure practitioner, the first touch of a net new logo's first opportunity with you could be 2 to 4 years prior. So we have the ability now with AI in the soup to say, hey, based on these activities, we have projected revenue maturation occurring over the next 4 years of X if everything goes according to the plan based on historic data that matches to this. That allows you to identify that first touch and the surge of this account where, from a content perspective or a relationship building perspective with your seller, you can engage the right people that early on. Typically in the past, what's happened is marketing's gone and bought intent from intent data providers, and it'll say this account is surging without context, and the recommendation is send all these surging accounts to sales, and sales turns the stink eye to marketing going, God dang it, again, come on. It's bad as it leads. The surging was accurate, but what was missing was the context, and the context is provided when you get all that data cohesive at a holistic level, analyzed. And then you add in the propensity, say, hey, it is surging, but it's surging because of early interest in this thing we just announced. They have propensity to engage. So propensity to engage is important, but it's different than, say, when you identify the full buying group engaging and there's propensity to buy at that point. But again, the seller doesn't need to know that. They just need to know who to talk to and when and why.
Yeah. We've done some research on decision making. I'm curious of getting your take on this. done some research on decision making, and it says that people really, or buyers, make decisions one out of two reasons, right? Either to gain an outcome from whatever you can offer me, or to avoid a risk that I'm facing. If your seller can't have either of those conversations with me, the urgency is just not enough for me to move off the status or the current situation, because change is difficult. It's pain in my backside. I don't want to do it. So the outcome must be strong enough, or the risk avoidance must be strong enough. Do you agree with that? And what's your take on that?
Absolutely. I was, Ian Howells, my CMO when I was at Intact, drilled it into us as robotic positioning. Often you'll go look at somebody's web main feature graphic or the top of a product page, and it just lists that we build this widget, and somehow you should want this widget. But the importance is conveying to that individual that nonprofit, CFOs cut time to close by X%, by blah, 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 blah. So you've come back from it going, oh my gosh, these are people like me. This is the pain point. Closing's horrible. If I were able to cut close by this amount of time, I would save this much money. The seller has to come at it similarly and enable you, not hammering it towards you, obviously, your relationship building, but in that relationship building, it's like, hey, this looks like something you'd be interested in. This could really help you.
Right. And then connect a really good use case to it, and then really message the outcomes, and outcomes impact value, as we always refer to it. It's interesting. So we train a lot of, salespeople and so forth. And I always face the issue when customers tell us, oh, well, we have a win rates issue and we're just going to put the enterprise salespeople through it, or these people, and let's ignore everybody else, and when we talked through our pre-call a couple of weeks ago, you mentioned the importance of the execution of the strategy at the point where it matters most, right? At the base of the point of customer interface. How do you make sure when you need your strategy to be executed at that point, how do you make sure there is a consistent action across the different teams, the different markets, especially, obviously, global enterprises are close, but you got to have everybody contributing to that, everybody speaking the same language, everybody having the same mindset and skill set. What's your experience with that, and how do you execute that at the top level?
My experience with that is like playing whack-a-mole. I don't know if you're aware of that old game. Little moles would pop up in the arcade and you had to hit it with a hammer as they kept coming over and over. In a small org, it's actually much easier, right? Especially with the automation and orchestration tools we have in play today. There are plenty of vendors out there where end to end, I can create this omnichannel experience where it says, if you're this role at this stage with this propensity, I want this to happen out of my marketing automation platform. I want this to trigger in my CRM, whether it's propensity to engage 2 to 4 years out from an opportunity, or identifying this buying center, and then the buying center is here, and I want the roles in the buying center close to a decision to be aware of this product offering. So I'm going to trigger banner ads around that. That's all doable automation wise. As the org gets bigger and bigger, every one of those pieces is owned by a different team. One within marketing. And then as the org gets bigger and bigger, in very siloed groups between sales over here and marketing over here, right? And maybe in the super large enterprise, the view that marketing is just brand and events, and we do all the selling over here, which completely kneecaps you as far as understanding that 4-year relationship building.
Huge.
So yeah, it's from our team standpoint in the championing of data, that holistic level. Being in the large organization, we're really nudging the aircraft carrier because we don't own the execution of those pieces at that point. Yeah. And what you do is you lead with the data. There are certain groups where it's much easier to get an ear there. And there's other groups where you just keep sprinkling, and then slowly you're affecting change. But it's very difficult.
Right. Interesting.
Absolutely doable, very difficult in the larger org.
tough, very tough in a large organization. Exactly, I agree. Ari, you've seen many salespeople, some come and go. I was going to say we're almost at the end of our time together, and
Really, already? That's terrible. If we should extend this.
we should open to do a second episode, part 2, because I feel like there's such a wealth of knowledge there to be tapped into. The last question I always ask on every podcast is, in your opinion, if you want to be an elite seller in the future, what are the top qualities that you need to possess to be an elite salesperson? What would those 3 be?
The best salespeople I've come across are the ones that have that human element where they don't even feel like salespeople. They're relationship building. They're a friend that you've known for X amount of time. So when that nudge towards that selling motion happens, it doesn't feel anywhere near a cold call or a push or anything like that. I trust this individual. They're a friend of mine. I know them well.
Can you learn that?
Amazing.
Can you learn that, or are you born with that? Can you learn that human element?
I honestly think you can to a degree.
Yeah.
I think the really, really VIP diamonds in the rough are born with it. That's it. That's at that level where you hear the phrase, marketers and sellers are chemically different at their core. And then within the sellers, the VIP individuals, the ones that shine, say you might have an SDR team doing calls for 8 months. After 8 months, most of them burn out. And then there's a couple individuals that are rock stars. And those people go on to be those individuals then some of those people go on to become those people that are really good at relationship building versus just a push.
Yeah. How about number 2? So the human element, the trust piece to create that rapport quickly is key. What about number 2?
Number 2 would be an affinity for data at this point. Now, I don't mean being a data scientist, but being open to embracing the application of data we have today. Again, it doesn't mean diving into a BI tool. It means you need to be open to things like intelligence briefs that AI at a holistic data level can provide you now. The fact that, no, Joe doesn't know everything going on in his organization, and you have to be open to that brief versus I'm going to have cocktails with this guy in a month and he'll tell me everything going on then.
Yeah, absolutely. And then connected that data thirst with the human element. That's a pretty cool combo. How about number 3? What's the third top quality that super elite salesperson needs to possess?
A feedback mechanism. So from a data perspective, one of the biggest gaps we have is that circle back. Okay, we identified this account as propensity. We did all the things. This seller had a meeting or a conversation or cocktails. And in analyzing what's working and what's not, we now have a black hole. We don't know why things are falling off. And it turns out in all the conversations, or 40% of the conversations, people don't like this one thing. If they're not coming back, which many often don't, they don't put in call notes or anything like that, we don't know, and we can't pivot accordingly, and we can't fill the gap, and we can't tweak that omni-channel experience that's going on right now to adequately address that pain point that's come up. That feedback loop's important. And a lot of them don't want to spend the time. I'm doing my thing, and what I do is what matters.
Yeah. And especially goes back to all these stakeholders. You got to be operating in a team environment. For that, it's really critical to be able to share and receive constructive feedback. Absolutely.
No matter how much we automate, what we talked about a little earlier, no matter how much you automate that seller's conversation is the one thing that knows if something needs to pivot in the machine.
Right. Very interesting. And the whole purpose also of this this podcast and our way to get that rich knowledge out to people is the human element is still extremely important. It just drives us. I think the AI and everything surrounded and data drives us to just be at an elite level. And what is it that we can do, and how can we progress to nudge forward. And that's, if you have that mindset, that's key. Absolutely.
Yeah, and to your point, we have that ability with some technology. We do pull sentiment and things like that for calls that are recorded, and we try to do the best around the automation of that. But the seller really knows exactly what's going on in the mindset of the people they're talking to, and that depth of input is absolutely required for success.
Yeah, couldn't agree more with you. Lovely people, you've heard it here first from Ari. You have to have a human element. You have to have a drive to understand and use the data, as well as a really good feedback mechanism on the inside and outside. Ari, thank you. I know our listeners very, very much appreciate your insights and your thought leadership. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Well, lovely people, calls to action for you. Go to the B2BSalesTrends.com podcast, subscribe to it, share this or any other episode with people who you want to improve and want to progress, as well as go to your YouTube channel, B2B Sales Trends podcast, and like it and share it and do whatever it says. To do that, go to globalperformancegroup.com. Also, if you want to compare your industry win rates with your current ones and get some insights on that. Until the next episode, look after yourself, look after your loved ones, and of course, your B2B customers. Bye-bye.